So let's go ahead and begin today's lesson. So in today's lesson, the topic of the day is equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. So we've been talking about parallel lines and perpendicular lines and how they look visually, but today we're going to put them on a coordinate plane and we're going to talk about the equations. So that's why I wanted to review linear functions yesterday and today, because now we're set up to be ready for this. So I have two lines here. Go ahead and visually calculate the slope of both lines. I'm going to label them so that we can keep track. So this one's going to be line G, and this one's going to be line B. Line G and line B. So go ahead and take 1 minute to look at the slope, the rise and the run, and see what you get. Perla says 2, Tyrone says 2. But Perla and Tyrone are not my only students, so what does everyone else think? And you can answer things out loud, you guys. I know that you guys have been in the chat this whole time, but I do want to hear your voices as well. 2, okay. Good, 2. So just as a quick review, I could find 2 points, any 2 points, find the rise and the run. My rise is 2, my run is 1. And that's the same thing for both the green line and the blue line. So M equals 2 for both. And what's the relationship between these two lines? What are they called to each other? Someone say it out loud. What are they called to each other? Parallel. Yeah. All right, so notice we have 2 lines with the same exact slope. Those are parallel lines. Now let's take a look at these 2. So let's make this one line P, and I'll make this one line O. So go ahead and calculate the slope for line P and calculate the slope for line O. See what you get. And you can type it in the chat. You can also say it out loud. Okay, I have 1 answer in the chat. Calculate the slope. Slope of the purple line, slope of the orange line. I need 9 answers from my 9 students because this is a very easy question. So I'm not going to move on until I have 9 answers in the chat. And so far I only have 1. Okay, I have 2 answers in the chat. Thank you, Perla. Thank you, Janelle's. Thank you, Emily. Girls are winning today, guys. Okay, thank you, Tyrone. Daniel, I want you to sit up straight. I don't know what you're doing, but you're about to fall off your chair. Still waiting on Daniel, Eric, Jalen, and Alejandro. Samaj, thank you for your answer. All the girls have answered. No, Alejandro, it's not sexism, it's just facts. Alejandro, where's your answer?
I want to do B.
Tyrone, you're holding it up. Daniel, I didn't ask you which one you want to do. I'm asking you to answer the question in the chat. And I've asked 5 times now, and I still haven't gotten an answer from you, from Jalen, or from Alejandro.
I got the first, I'm trying to do the second one.
It should not take you 2 minutes to calculate the slope. If it's taking you 2 minutes to calculate the slope, I'll invite you to my Algebra 1 period 7 today. If I don't get an answer in the next 30 seconds, someone's getting their parents called tonight. Thank you, Alejandro.
I think I did this wrong, but I'm gonna tell you anyway.
Good. I don't care if you got it wrong. I just need an answer. Daniel, you got 10 seconds. Otherwise, I'm calling mom. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Unbelievable, guys. See, I know most of you guys are paying attention, but some of you guys, I don't know what the heck you're doing on your computers. You're not paying attention because it should not take you this long. And now we've already, officially started this class with Miss Lopez in a bad mood. All right. I need the slope of the purple line, and I need the slope of the orange line. Who can give me the slope of the purple line? All I'm asking for is the slope, Jalen. You did more work than you needed to do. But you got me an answer, so thank you. All right, Perla says the slope of the purple/pink line is 3/1. Good. Pick 2 points. Rise over run is 3/1, which is just 3. Somebody else give me the slope of the orange line. Rise over run, what do you get? Okay, good. 1/-3 or -1/3, either way, it's -1/3. And what is the relationship between these two? Good, Tyrone, they are perpendicular. And notice the slopes of these 2 lines have something in common. What do they have in common? They intersect. They intersect, that's true. They intersect at what type of angle? Since they are perpendicular lines, what angle are they intersecting at? And Daniel says they both have a 1 and a 3 in the slope. Good. All right. So lots of answers to my questions here. So we have a 90-degree angle. Thank you, Perla. And the similarities in the slope is that one of them has 3 in the numerator and 1 in the denominator, and the other one is flipped. So can anyone think of the word for that when
Reflection.
when you have something, a fraction, when you have the fraction and it flips? Can anyone remember that from last year? Good, Perla. Reciprocal. You got it. The reciprocal. And not only is it the reciprocal, but it went from being positive to being negative. So this has a very specific name, and let's go ahead and write this down. We have 2 definitions. First up, if 2 lines are parallel, they have the same slope and a different y-intercept. 2 lines that are perpendicular have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. Opposite reciprocals. So what that means is that they are reciprocals, but one of them will be positive and the other one will be negative. So I'm going to write an example. What is the opposite reciprocal of 4/5? Good. Negative 5/4. This is the opposite reciprocal. So take 30 seconds to a minute to write down these 2 definitions. Yeah, Tyrone, good. Another example is 3/4 would be the opposite reciprocal of 3/4 would be negative 4/3. Fifteen more seconds. Okie doke. So let's go to our first problem of the day. Often, especially on tests, we would need to figure out the equation for a line without the graph. So that's why I wanted to do the bell ringer today that helped us see how you could do that if you don't have a graph in front of you. So can I have a volunteer read for us what what are we writing an equation for here? Perfect. We want to write an equation for this line. And we have 2 pieces of information. We know that it has to be parallel to y equals negative 3x plus 4, and it has to pass through 9, negative 6. So let's fill in some blanks here. Parallel lines have what slopes? What's the relationship between the slopes of parallel lines? Yeah, same slopes. So you could say same slopes, equivalent. I'm going to write equivalent. They have equivalent slopes. So the slope of the line we're looking for has to be what? Yeah, Perla, negative 3. So we already know that m has to be negative 3. And then to figure out, because remember, in order to write an equation for a line, you need to know the slope and you need to know the Right, the y-intercept, Tyrone, exactly. But right now, we don't know what the y-intercept is. So we're going to use our slope-intercept equation, and we're going to plug in the point that they give us, because we know it has to pass through 9, -6. So I can use that point to find the value of b. So what should I plug in for y? What should I plug in for y, guys? Okay, Perla says -6. Exactly. Where did you get that from? The coordinate point. Exactly. Our coordinate point has an x value and a y value. So we're going to plug that point in along with our slope to find the value of b. So y would be -6. What would m be? M is -3, good, because we just found that, or we already know that from the problem. X is 9, and we leave b by itself, and we're going to solve for b. So let's go ahead and solve. -3 times 9. -3 times 9, -27, good. And what do I do to get b by itself? Good, we're gonna add. Add what? 27, good. So what's -6 plus 27? Good job, 21. All right, so we found our b. We have our m. Let's finish the problem and write the equation. What's my equation? I don't know why I wrote 3, my bad. It's 21. All right, good, Perla. Y equals 3x plus 21. Okay, so that's the steps. We're gonna go ahead. -3, my bad, you're right. There you go. So that's the steps that we're gonna take for these types of problems. Anytime we need to write the equation, we're not gonna be doing it on a graph. We're gonna be doing it as an algebra problem. So let's go ahead and take a look at problem number 2. Actually, we have problem number 4 and 5. All right, so now I want you guys to try this. I'm gonna put 5 minutes on the timer. Five minutes on my timer, and I want to see an answer from every single person. I do not care if it's wrong. I need to see an answer from every single person. Full participation. This is a small class. You can't get away with just sitting there. Everybody's going to participate. So you have 5 minutes. Send me your answers when you're done. Jalen, I know you just got back. We're working on these 2 problems. And there's about 4 minutes remaining. About 2 minutes remaining. Remember, I need an answer from everybody in the chat. Full participation. "41 seconds remaining. So far, I've only gotten 2 answers. Three answers. 15 seconds remaining. And that is time. I'm still missing an answer from Eric, Tyrone, and Alejandro. It's okay if it's wrong. Send me something. Okay. All right. So for number 4, let's start with number 4. I have my equation, y equals negative x. What is the slope going to be for number 4? What is the slope going to be for number 4? Okay, Perla says -1. How did you get -1? Good. And we know that it has to be parallel to y equals negative x, and the slope of y equals negative x is -1. So it has to have the same slope as the original equation. But I don't know b. So to find b, what do I do? Plug it into what? Okay, so I'm going to start by just writing y equals mx plus b. We have a coordinate point. They give us a coordinate point to use. So what do I plug in for y? 2.5. What do I plug in for x? Tyrone got it. -1 for m. X is 5. And then plus b. Now I solve. What's -1 times 5 is? -5. So I have 2.5 equals -5 plus b. What do I do to both sides now? Add 5. And what's 2.5 plus 5? 7.5. Good. So my final answer for B is 7.5. So I have my M, I have my B. What's my final equation? Matter of fact, pause, don't say anything yet. Perla and Tyrone and Emily are not allowed to answer. Everybody else in the chat, who can tell me what's the equation of my line? Let's go, Daniel. Eric.
Y
Yeah.
equals
Mhm.
that's be negative 5, right?
Where you get
Isn't it?
-5?
That's from x times the n. I think I'm not sure. I think it's 1 or 5. I'm doubting myself right now.
What's the slope?
Y equals to negative. Y is negative. No, it's 2.5 equals -1.
What's the slope? What's the slope? Look, it's right in front of you. What's the slope?
Y equals mx plus b.
What's the slope? M. What is M?
M is -5.
Where'd you get a -5? I'm confused.
Oh, it's right there, -5. But I'm so dumb, bro.
Jalen, what does this say?
Oh, -1x.
Oh, -1x. Okay.
So dumb.
Slope is -1. I put my x, and what's my b?
7.5.
7.5. Guys, it's that easy. It's that easy.
I need a mind breaker real quick.
You need to sit up straight and write your notes down and copy everything I'm writing on the board, because if you're not copying, you're not learning. I haven't seen Daniel pick up a pencil this entire time. And that's just not how this works, you all. What was it? A couple weeks ago, I had every single one of you tell me that you're going to try harder and do better. And I don't see that promise coming through for half the people in this room. So just know Miss Lopez is watching. Miss Lopez knows what's going on. And Miss Lopez can call your parents if she feels that you're not doing as good as you should be. Perla, Emily, Tyrone, no answering for the next problem, okay? Because I know you guys got it right, because you guys already sent me your answers. For number 5, I need to write the equation for a line parallel to y equals 3/2 x plus 4 that passes through the point -4, 0. What is the slope of my new line going to be? Good, Janelle's 3/2. Where did you get that from? The equation.
It says it in the problem.
Good. How do we know that's going to be the same slope for both lines?
There's an X right next to it.
Yeah, but how do I know?
It's the same.
How do I know that my new line, these are two different lines we're talking about. Okay, my new line has to have the same slope because it is
Parallel.
Okay, so now I know my slope. I'm going to box it so Jalen doesn't miss it next time. No offense, Jalen. I don't know my B though. That's what I'm trying to find. So what equation do I plug everything into?
Y equals mx plus b.
Good. I plug everything into y equals mx plus b. I need to plug in y, m, and x. And where do I get my y and my x from?
The equation,
The equation is the coordinates.
The
It
coordinates.
already shows that y is 0.
Good. So we know y equals 0. What's my m?
3/2.
3/2. And what's my x?
-4.
Perfect. Now the only thing left over is my b, which is what I'm trying to solve for. So now I solve 3/2 times -4. What do I get?
6.
Good. Positive or negative?
Positive.
I have a -4 though.
So
that's-
yes.
So it's
Yeah.
negative. And if anyone's wondering how Daniel got that, -4 times 3 gives me -12, and then you
And then
divide
you
by
divide by 2.
that's how we get -6. And finally, to get my b all alone, what do I do to both sides?
Add 6.
Add 6. 0 plus 6
6.
is 6. So b equals 6. All right. Finally, now I have all the information I need. I have my slope. I have my y-intercept. Who can tell me the full equation now?
0 equals 6.
Hold up, Daniel. In the equation, remember, when you're finally writing your equation, you replace the m and you replace the b. That's it.
Oh, okay.
So it should be
Equals 3/2x plus 6.
there you go. Good job, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Eric. And thank you, Jalen, even though I made fun of you. I'm sorry. I appreciate you guys. And Janelle's was in the chat privately as well. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. See, I want you guys to participate because the more you participate, the more you're able to learn, even if you make mistakes. I don't want to sit here talking to a room full of silent ghosts. Jalen, I'm sorry. I totally threw you under the bus today. You get special treatment next time. Do I have any questions on these two problems so far? Okay. All right. Now we're going to do a very similar thing, but instead of parallel lines, we're going to look at perpendicular lines. So I want to write the equation for a line that is perpendicular to y equals -2/5 x plus 12 that passes through -6, -8. Now, what did we just talk about with perpendicular lines? What relationship does the slope have? Good, it's the reciprocal, but not just the reciprocal, it is the, opposite reciprocal. Good job, Perla. So the product of the slopes, and this is interesting, let's take a look at this. The product of the slopes of perpendicular lines, does anyone know what that is? The product of the slope. Okay, let's think about it. So if my original slope is -2/5, this is my old slope. And I know that my new slope has to be the opposite reciprocal. What's my new slope going to be?
Positive.
Positive.
2/5.
Remember to flip it.
5/2.
5/2. Good. So my old slope and my new slope. What happens when I multiply these? What do you get? 10/10. And let's take this negative and apply it to the numerator. So I would get -10/10, which is?
-1.
-1. So that's kind of how this works, guys. The product of the slopes of the two perpendicular lines will always multiply to -1. So that's what they were going for in that question. So the slope of the required line, which we already know, is 5/2. So now we can go ahead and work on this problem. It's going to be exactly like the previous problem. So now I know my slope is 5/2. I don't know my y-intercept, but we're going to use our equation, y equals mx plus b, to find the value of the y-intercept. So now that we all understand how to do this a little bit better, I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes to find the value of the y-intercept, and then give me your answers in the chat. Thank you, Janelle's. Thank you, Perla. Thank you, Emily. All right, that's time. All right. So anyone can answer this. What do I plug in for y?
-8.
Go ahead, -8. What do I plug in for m?
5/2.
Perfect, 5/2. And for x?
-6.
Good. Thank you, Eric. All right, now we do a little math. -6 times 5/2. What do we get? Good, Janelle's. -15. Remember, multiply by the numerator, divide by the denominator. So -30 divided by 2 is -15. And when I add, good, as Janelle says to do, we're going to add that to both sides. And what's -8 plus 15? +7. Good job. So b equals +7. And what's my final equation?
Y equals 5/2x plus 7.
Perfect. Nice job, guys. That was a real team effort. I appreciate it.
Yay.
Good job. Any questions?
No.
Awesome. So I have 2 more, but I just want you guys to do number 7. Just 7, because I do want to move on to some more challenging problems. So take another 3 minutes. 3 minutes on the timer for number 7. Good. I have 1 answer in the chat. Mm-hmm. 30 seconds remaining. I want to see your answers, guys. Answer me in the chat. I only have 1 so far. All right, that is time. All right. Some of you were really close. I only got one correct answer. So let's go through it and see what might have gone wrong.
Got it right.
Emily did. All right, so let's see. What should the slope be? What should my slope be if I need a perpendicular line? Good, Janelle's -2/3. So if you forgot the negative, that might have messed you up. Well, let's keep going and see what happens next. I don't know my b. Let's plug everything in. What do I plug in for y? Good, -1 for y, because I'm looking at my coordinate point. What do I plug in for m? Good, Tyrone, -2/3. And what about my x? Good, Janelle's +3, and then b. Okay. Now my math, -2/3 times 3, what does that give me? -2/3 times 3, what does that give me? Okay, so I see a couple of answers. Make sure we have that negative. Negative is important. Oh, so if I include the negative, if I don't forget the negative, what do I get? -2. Good, Tyrone. All right. Now I don't subtract it from both sides. I have to add it to both sides. That's what a couple of people did wrong. So that was important to make sure you got that. And when you add it to both sides, what do you get for b? Good, I get +1. So b is 1, slope is -2/3. What's my equation? What's my equation? Who would like to give it?
Negative y equals 2 over
2 over,
or let's say Tyrone's doing it.
oh, I see. Thank you. Okay, good, Janelle. So -2/3, don't forget the negative, x plus 1. I'm just using the values that I've already found. Okay. Any last questions on how to get these equations when you're given a point and the slope? Questions going once? Questions going twice? All right, good. So let's do some test prep now. So we're going to take this knowledge that we have now and apply it to a couple of more challenging problems. Can I have a volunteer read us test prep question number 1? Nice and loud, Tyrone.
We can't hear you.
I can hear him. Guys, if you can't hear him, try going to where your microphone button is. You can go.
Okay, so is it, oh, it's not muted here.
Yeah, it's not muted. It's just very quiet because he's far away. Hi.
Line segment AB runs through the point 0, 8 and 6, 10. Write the equation of a line in the standard form that is parallel to line segment AB and has a y-intercept of -4.
Okay. So they're giving us a lot of info here, but the information is a little more challenging than what we got in our easy problems. So I'm going to highlight a couple of things. I know that AB goes through these 2 points. I know that I need to write a new equation for a line that is parallel to AB and has a y-intercept of -4. Do I know the equation of AB? Does it give me the equation for AB anywhere? No. All I know about AB is that it passes through those 2 points. So I'm going to basically need to do 2 different things. I need to know the equation for AB. And I need to know the equation for the parallel line. So this is like a 2-in-1 problem. Before I can find the equation of the parallel line, I need to know the equation of my original line. So since the only thing I know about that line is the 2 points that it gives us, look carefully at those 2 points. Can I fill in any of these blanks? Do I know my M or my B? Okay, so Perla says that B is -4. So that is true of the new line. So right now I'm only talking about the old line. I know that my new line is going to have a B of -4. But do I know the y-intercept of the original line? Yeah, AB is the original one. So let me be very clear. AB, all we know about AB is that it runs through those 2 points. All we know about the one parallel to AB is that it's parallel and it has a y-intercept of -4. Yeah, that's the new line. So my old line, my original AB, do I know the slope of it? No, I don't know the slope. Do I know the y-intercept of it?
Yes.
What is it, Daniel?
4, 8.
8. Yeah, 8. Because what is that point? Notice what's important about that point.
It doesn't have an X.
It doesn't have an X. That's how I know that this is my y-intercept, because it starts with 0. So I actually do know my B. I know B is 8. And then what could I do to figure out the slope? What can I do to figure out the slope of AB?
Did we figure out what X was yet? Because we have to do that first.
Okay. So we have to figure out the X. Okay. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Oh, I can cut. What, Perla?
You can use the slope form, the y2 minus y1, whatever.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's what you were getting at, Daniel, but Perla's correct. We can use our slope formula to figure out the slope. So I'm going to plug in the values from the 2 points that they give me. What's my y2 going to be? Good, 10. So I have 10 minus 8 over, make sure it's consistent, Tyrone. Yeah, Janelli's is right, 6 minus 0. All right, 10 minus 8 gives me 2. 6 minus 0 gives me 6. And I simplify that and I get 1 over 3. Good, 1/3. So now I know M equals 1/3 and B equals 8. So now I can actually write the equation of AB. What's the equation? y equals 1/3 x plus 8. Good. But that wasn't even what my question is asking. My question wants to know what's the equation of the line parallel to AB that passes through or has a y-intercept of -4. So now I have to find those values for my new line. What would the m have to be of my new parallel line? I have a parallel line. Be very careful. Parallel line. Parallel lines have what type of relationship to each other? Same slope. Good. So my m of the new line is also going to be 1/3. And the y-intercept of my new line, they give it to me. What's it going to be? Good, Tyrone. -4. So who can write the equation for me of my parallel line? Good, Janelle, is y equals 1/3 x minus 4. All right. So questions on this one. See how this one required a little bit more deeper thinking? You can't write the equation of the new parallel line until you know the slope of the original line. So it's always important to know the slope of your original line in order to write the equation of your new line. So do I have any questions on this one on how I got any of those values? I had participation from everybody in school, and Daniel also participated. But I had a lot of silent ghosts during that question. So who has questions? Tyrone is asking, so if there's a 0, then the thing behind it is the y-intercept. So yeah, so if you have a coordinate point, so the y-intercept is always going to be whatever point starts with 0, and then b is the value of your y-intercept. That is correct. Okay, let's do another. Test prep question number 2. Who can read number 2? Tyrone already read. Let me hear from somebody else, maybe someone at home.
AB has endpoints A 4, comma 3, -3, and B 3, 7. Line D is the perpendicular bisector of AB. Which of the following is not an equation of line D?
Good. All right. This one, guys, not going to lie, pretty challenging. So let's think about it for a second. A and B, it gives us the endpoints, right? And we know that line D has to be the perpendicular bisector. So the perpendicular bisector does two things. What are the two things it does? So my question again was, what does the perpendicular bisector do to a line segment? And Perla says it creates a 90-degree angle, which is correct, and it divides the line into two equal parts. That is both correct. Good job, Perla. So it creates a 90-degree angle and divides the line into two parts. That's the definition of a perpendicular bisector. So I have these 2 points, right? And I'm gonna like roughly, very, very roughly graph these. Like I'm not gonna be precise at all, but I know I have 4, -3, so that would be somewhere like here-ish. I'm just visualizing. And I have 3, 7, so that would be somewhere like here-ish. Right, I got these 2 points. and that's my line segment. And if I'm trying to find the perpendicular bisector, what has to be true about that perpendicular bisector? What does it have to pass through in order to be a perpendicular bisector? What does it have to pass through? It has to pass through the middle, exactly. So somewhere along this line segment is my midpoint, which means that in order for it to be a perpendicular bisector, it has to pass through that point and make a 90-degree angle. That's the definition. Which means, okay, that I have to do two things here. In order to know the equation of the line I'm looking for, I need to know the slope, and I need to know the coordinate point that it's passing through. So can anybody remember, how do you figure out the coordinate point of the midpoint?
Oh, the midpoint formula.
Yeah, the midpoint formula. So see, these things don't go away, guys. You think you remember it? Okay, what do you think it is?
X1 plus X2 over 2,
Mhm.
Y1 plus Y2 over 2.
You got it. Nice job. That's my midpoint formula. We looked at this a little while ago. This was like the first thing you guys learned in this class, and now it's coming back. So that midpoint formula is going to tell us the midpoint between A and B. And that's going to help us find the equation of our perpendicular bisector. So that's why we got to do that first. So let's go ahead and figure it out. The midpoint is going to be, I have these 2 points. I'm going to use those values in my formula. So what do I put in for x1?
4,
4. x2?
3,
3. And then y1
-3,
and y2.
7,
And I divide that by 2. And now let's simplify. 4 plus 3 gives me 7.
7,
So I have 7 over 2. And then -3
Like
plus 7.
that would be like a 3.5.
Yeah, matter of fact, let's do it as a decimal for now. So 3.5. And then what do I get for y?
2.
2. Well, -2. Well, no, you're right. +2. My bad. All
I'm
right.
smart.
Yeah, you are. Oh, I just deleted everything I didn't want to delete. All right, so there's my line. And now I know that my midpoint is at 3.5, 2. All right. So I have a point. I know what point it has to pass through, but I still don't know my slope. So now this is where I go into part 2 of this problem. This is why I said this is a very difficult problem, guys. It requires like kind of a lot of stuff. So do I have any questions on the midpoint, on how I found that midpoint, on the midpoint formula, which Perla already has memorized? Of course she does. Any questions on this part?
No.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to erase what I have here. I'm going to erase this work so I have more room. But I'm going to keep that coordinate point. All right, so for my perpendicular bisector, so far I know that it passes through 3.5, 2. But I still don't know the slope of it. So what can I do to figure out the slope of my perpendicular bisector? Yeah, I can use my slope formula. So now I'm not finding the midpoint anymore. Now I'm finding the slope. But I'm going to find the slope of the original line of AB, because that's all I know so far. I know the coordinate point for A and I know the coordinate point for B. So I'm going to find the slope of AB, and then the slope of the perpendicular bisector would be what? It would be flipped. It would be the opposite reciprocal. So let's start with just the slope formula. You guys are doing really well. So let's keep this up. We're almost there. What's y2? 7. Good. y1? -3. Good. x2 is 3. And x1 is 4. All right. Since I'm doing 7 minus -4, that turns into 7 minus -3. That becomes 7 plus 3. So what's 7 plus 3? Is 10. Good. And then 3 minus 4 is -1. So my slope is -1. Now that's the slope of the original line. So the slope of my perpendicular bisector has to be not -1, but rather, or not -10, but rather good, Tyrone, -1/10. Because remember, in order to get your perpendicular, or not perpendicular, to get your opposite reciprocal, you have to think of this kind of like a fraction and then flip it. And not only flip it, but we're going to make it positive because it started out negative. So you're flipping the sign of it. So my slope is 1/10. So we went from -10, the opposite reciprocal of -10 is positive 1/10. Do I have any questions on how I got the slope of my perpendicular bisector? Tyrone says reciprocalize it. Yes, that's exactly what we did. All right. So let's go ahead and now we can finally do our last step. So we've done 3 things. We had to find the midpoint. We had to find the slope. Now, in order to write the full equation, I still need one missing piece. What's the last thing now I have to find? Yeah, the y-intercept. I still don't know my b. So we've done all this work and I still don't even know what the y-intercept is. Oh my goodness. All right. I got to plug it into my formula. But now I have everything else I need because now I have a point I can plug in. I have my slope, which I can plug in, and then I can find my final answer. So what do I plug in for y now? Good, 2, because now I'm looking at this point. So I'm going to plug in 2 for y. My slope is 1/10. My x is 3.5. And all I'm left with is b. Good, let's do this math. You can use your calculators for this. 3.5 divided by 10, what does that give you?
0.35.
Good, 0.35. And to get my final value, I need to subtract that from both sides. So what's 2 minus 0.35?
1.6.
Good, 1.65. So after all that, we finally can write our equation. Y equals 1/10 x plus 1.65.
I knew it. I put A was wrong in the chat.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go through these answer choices. The obvious one, which one is correct? Which one obviously is
D.
correct? Okay, D is obviously correct, but we're looking for which one is not correct. So D's out. Take a look, which
He's
one?
correct too.
C is correct too. If you do the math and you distribute, you'll see that C is also correct.
All you have to do is plug in the y.
Right. What about B? Is there any way that this equation can be turned into that equation? Yeah, no, it
Yes.
really can't.
No.
No, it can't, because how would you if they were connected, you would have to see a pattern all the way through. But here there's no pattern to turn it into B. So that's why B is correct. And A, Daniel, is correct because it's what you get if you added, let's see, how did they get it? They subtracted 1/10 x from both sides.
So instead of doing that, they multiplied it.
And then they multiplied everything by 10. So that's why they got 10y minus x equals 16.5. So you can get A if you multiply everything by 10. That was a crazy question. I really hope you don't get something like this on a test, because that was a lot. But it's always good to work on these types of problems and prepare ourselves, because you never know. You know these tests, you know how they can be. All right, so I first of all appreciate everybody who participated today. You know, that's what I want to see. That's how I like things, okay? You guys were really good today. After I yelled at you a little bit, we picked it up. So I appreciate that. Let's hope that next time I don't have to yell at you though, because I don't like to do that. All right, so that is it. There is no homework, no more homework. You had one due yesterday. If you didn't do it, then go do it, because I'll take away 1 point, but it's better than a 0. The only thing is to study today's materials in order to prepare for tomorrow's quiz. So there will be a quiz tomorrow on parallel and perpendicular lines. So all of the stuff we've learned this week about that will be on the quiz tomorrow. All right, other than that, you guys are good to go. I'll see you tomorrow, y'all. Bye, everybody. Bye.